All right. Hi, guys. Sorry, it's a little close. I'm just readjusting here. Apologize for the lateness. I was battling a teen that didn't want to do something. Isn't that so much fun? Fix this camera here. I think it's just a hair low. Will do. Okay. So tonight we're talking, what are we talking? Adrenal fatigue. That's what we're talking. Sorry, I was a little sidetracked. Yeah, so trying to think if I have anything funny to tell you. I don't. I really don't. No. I started watching a couple of new shows. Let's see. I started Stranger Things. I just started that. Well, we started that last week, and so we finally made it to like season 2, but we're always super behind when it comes to shows. I like to binge watch them. I don't want to like be on edge for the next week until, the new show comes out. So I like to wait until a whole season is out, and then I like to sit and watch that. And then today I just started 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, so that's pretty interesting. Anywho, so if you are joining me for the first time, my name is Sunny Brigham. I am a board-certified clinical and integrative nutritionist. I have a master's of science in clinical nutrition, and I own and operate my own clinical practice now in Fort Worth, Texas. I was in Colleyville. Now I am officially in Fort Worth, and that's what we're doing. So tonight we're going to talk adrenal fatigue. I linked the link in the side notes there. I never know what to call them. For me, it's on the side. For you guys, it might be on the bottom. Perhaps it's on the top. I'm not really certain where it shows up, but there's a blog link somewhere on your screen. If you haven't read the blog yet, I highly encourage you to do that after I'm done broadcasting live. That way you can kind of get a better idea about some of the things that I'm talking about tonight. So tonight we're talking adrenal fatigue. And I put it in quotes for a specific reason, and I will tell you why here in just a second. As we're going on, if you have any questions, just go ahead and pop them in the chat box. I don't see the screen when I'm talking because I'm referencing the blog, but should you have any questions, I do come back and check it. So I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Okay, so you can Google, if you just opened a Google tab and you put in adrenal fatigue, you're going to get, no kidding, like at least 1,000 easy blogs written in the last year about adrenal fatigue. And the reason that I put it in quotes is because adrenal fatigue doesn't actually exist. That's what it used to be called. It used to be called adrenal fatigue. It was what's the word? It's not really a diagnosis because we don't diagnose, but it was a condition that we would treat in a very specific manner. And it was describing the fact that your adrenal glands, sorry, 2 dogs just came through the doggy door at once. It was pretty interesting. So your adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys basically become fatigued. And so it's a variety of symptoms that you experience when your adrenals are fatigued. What has been found, though, is that it's not actually your adrenals. It's a part of the process, and so it's miscalled adrenal fatigue. The actual condition is called HPA axis dysregulation. So that's an absolute better way to discuss the issue that we're going to discuss tonight. If you look at for research studies or scientific studies, Beauregard, you can't get out there, buddy. Beauregard, come on, come here. You're going to find studies and actually reviews that I'm a huge fan of that shows that adrenal fatigue is actually a myth. But if you change that phrase to HPA axis dysregulation, you're going to find tons of studies and reviews that talk about the condition HPA axis dysregulation. So let's talk just a quick moment about what HPA axis dysregulation is and how this kind of plays into you guys and why it's something that I see often in my office. So HPA axis is the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. They are responsible for releasing a variety of hormones in the body. They control the cardiovascular system, the metabolic system, your immune system, your reproductive system, your central nervous system. They play a role in our circadian rhythm. So your HPA axis is super, super important to just your everyday function of your body. It controls your stress response. This is the biggest thing that I'm really concerned about when we talk about HPA axis dysregulation. And the reason being is because when it's gotten to the point where it's showing physical signs on the body, it's gotten to the point where the system, where the axis is really kind of broken, for lack of a better term. And so some of the symptoms that people will experience, one of the biggest one is extreme fatigue. And when I say fatigue, I'm not talking like sleepy fatigue. I'm talking like you look amazing on the outside, but you feel like you've been hit by a truck on the inside. Exercise no longer makes you feel better. It makes you feel worse. You feel like you have a loss of muscle tone. So even though you're supposedly doing everything right in the gym, you are just not able to gain any new muscle. And we'll talk more about more symptoms in a little bit, but usually those are the first few signs that I see. So let's talk about how HPA axis plays into the stress response and why this is important for you guys. So we're going to do a little imagination. So I'm going to kind of tell you a story, and I just want you to picture yourself in that story for just a quick moment. So imagine that you took a safari and you are out in Africa and you are with your guide and with the other people in your group, and you get out of the Jeep or whatever vehicle you happen to be in because there doesn't appear to be anything dangerous around, and you just want to snap a couple of quick pictures of the scenery because it's so beautiful and the wildlife and you can't believe all these amazing things that you're seeing, and you turn around and you've been left behind and your vehicle is gone with all the people that were there. Your guide has left you, and in place of that is a lion that's staring at you like you're an amazing afternoon snack. The first thing that happens is you're going to feel your heart start to race, like you're getting the butterflies in the chest, you're starting to sweat, your hands are starting to shake, your breathing has changed, and you start to freak out. So that's the first part of your stress response. That's your adrenaline or epinephrine. So the next thing that happens is you kind of gather your thoughts and you're like, oh shit, I got to get out of here. This lion's going to eat me. And so you take off running and you see a lot of debris. You've got trees you got to go around. You're trying to spot places to hide. And so that is your norepinephrine, or your noradrenaline, as some people call it. That's the second hormone that gets released in the process of the stress response. It helps give you laser focus. You're starting to produce more energy in the body so that you can start to maintain a level of activity in order to outrun this lion. And then the third hormone that gets released is cortisol. And most people, I feel, are familiar with the term cortisol. I don't know that people necessarily equate it to stress, but cortisol is like the damning hormone when it comes to stress. We need it. But what cortisol does is your heart's racing, you've got the laser focus, and now your body doesn't know how long you're going to have to outrun this lion. And so cortisol is released, sends a signal to the body that says, hey, we're outrunning this lion here. Go ahead and release all of our stored energy. So every time we eat carbohydrates, we are storing it in one of two places. So we're either converting it to a storage form of energy called glycogen. We store it in the liver and we store it in the muscles and a few other places in the body, but those are the two biggest storage sites. When those stores are full, anything excess carbohydrate-wise that we're eating, we're starting to store that as fat. So this is kind of where the whole exercise piece comes in, and this is why some people tend to lose weight when they cut out or reduce their carbohydrates, because there's no energy there whatsoever. And so what cortisol does is all of the storage form of energy, the glycogen, it sends the signal to release it. So the body starts quickly converting it back to usable energy. and flushes it out into the bloodstream so that we can start sending it through the energy creation cycles in the body and start producing more energy molecules that we can use. And so that's great. Now you've got tons of energy so that you can continue to outrun from this lion. You can climb that tree if you have to. You can start yelling for help. You can do all the things that you need to do to survive that situation. So that is how a stress response works when you're standing in front of a lion. So adrenaline or epinephrine, norepinephrine, or some people call it noradrenaline, and then cortisol. So that exact same process happens in the same way every time. But that same process happens when we get an unexpected bill, when we get into an argument with a coworker, or our boss ticks us off, or we're driving home and somebody on their phone in the lane next to us kind of floats into our lane, and you've got to swerve really quick, and you get that, the heart racing and the sweaty palms on the steering wheel. That's your body starting off the stress response. And so we go through that process several times a day. You do it when you're exercising, which is a good stressor, and you do it when you get a bill, which is a bad stressor. But the problem is that when we have these bad stressors that we have so often today in our everyday lives, we're not running from everything. So when we get to that cortisol release, it's releasing all this energy into the body, right? But we're not using it. And so it's just kind of free floating there. And it's like, I don't know what to do. We're not using this. So let's, I guess, put it away for later. The problem is that once you have taken energy storage out, you can't put it back in the same place. You have to reconvert it to something else. It usually gets converted into fat, and it sits around the belly. And so this is how stress can cause weight gain and things like that. It can also cause cravings because now your energy stores are depleted. We need to replenish those, even though you're not running anything. You're sitting at a desk looking at your email, ticked off at the world because of this email that came in. And that same process happened, and now you're craving chocolate and cookies and candy and cakes and chips and everything that your body wants so that it can quickly replenish those storage sites, because we don't know when the next lion is going to come. And so you continue to do the process over and over. Now, where this happens with HPA axis and adrenal fatigue, let's put that in quotes, or HPA axis dysregulation, is that it's kind of like when we think about insulin and diabetics, right? Is so we're either producing enough insulin, or the body's not recognizing the insulin that we're producing, or we're just not producing enough insulin anymore from the pancreas. And so the same thing happens when we're kind of like in a state where we're producing so much cortisol over and over and over and over and over again. The body sees this cortisol at some point, and it's like, it's there all the time. It'll be there when we need it. Oh, we'll deal with that later. It just kind of becomes immune to this cortisol that's floating around. And so your body doesn't utilize it anymore. It'll process it and just send it on its way. Since it's a hormone, I've talked about this before, all hormones are processed through the liver. And so if you're a high stress person and you're continually processing hormones through the liver over and over and over again, you can actually create fatty liver, because cortisol can sit in the liver and become fat, which is not great. And so when we're in the stress process and we continue to have stress in our life and we're not doing anything to combat the stress, this is where we get into the part where we can develop adrenal fatigue. Stress is, and this is something that I tell my clients all the time, you can't make stress go away. Some of it you can, right? So if you have a stressful person in your life, this is a family member or a friend or, acquaintance or, a coworker or something like that, you could have this really stressful person that's just causing you an immense amount of distress and stress in your life. You can make the conscious decision to cut that person out and say, I'm not going to let that person bother me anymore. If your job is a significant stressor, You can do your best to try to find a new job. If you're not in a place where you can do that, it's kind of one of those things you have to deal with at that point. But if you can take the stress out of your life, I highly recommend doing that. If you can't, there's always a way that we can combat stress in the body. And so I'm a big fan of belly breathing. I'm a big fan of meditation. Adaptogens are another big one. And I'll talk about a couple more supplements later on that are really good for HPA axis dysregulation. Okay, so signs and symptoms of adrenal fatigue. I see adrenal fatigue probably in about 50% of my clients. Some of them adapt really well and don't know that they have it, or they're starting to go down the slippery slope of developing adrenal fatigue. And some people are full blown right in the midst of it. And I'll be honest with you, it's one of them that it's a condition that's really hard to recover from. Not saying that you can't recover from it, you absolutely can, but it takes time. It's not like taking a round of antibiotics and in 10 days you're shipshape. This is nurturing yourself, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, reducing your stress, overhauling your lifestyle, really putting you as a priority in order to regain a balance in your HPA axis so that it's no longer kind of shunted from the process. It's no longer not producing cortisol, or it's no longer not recognizing the cortisol that it's producing. It's all about bringing the body back into balance where it should be. So here's some really common symptoms that I see. So common symptoms is unexplained, ridiculous fatigue. Like, you can sleep and sleep and sleep and still not get enough sleep. You are tired first thing in the morning when you get up. It takes you kind of a good 30 to 45 minutes to really feel human. You get really tired in the afternoon, but around between 7 and 8 at night, you get like that second wind where it's just, you just got this burst of energy out of nowhere, and now you're not ready for bed because you got all this energy to do all these things that you couldn't do during the day. And so then you don't go to bed until like 11 or 12 at night, and then it's just kind of a cycle over and over and over again. Or the fatigue that you just can't physically do anything. You can't focus, you can't think. You just can't, like, it's hard to explain. It's not, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's just a mental fatigue, but it's just an unexplained fatigue that nobody gets but you. Exercise is another aspect of it. So not feeling the benefits of exercise. So going into the gym and coming out and feeling worse than when you went in, feeling like you're getting weaker, feeling like you're doing all of the squats and push-ups and bench presses and everything that you're supposed to build muscle, but it's just not doing anything. Living a high-stress lifestyle or being a high-stress person. So I recognize that there are people that are go, 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 go. Sometimes it's okay and it's beneficial to kind of slow down and just take a day to yourself, or relax and calm down for a little bit. That's going to be really important to taking care of the body. Weight gain is another one, especially if you feel like I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to lose weight and you're not able to lose weight. That's going to be a big aspect of it as well. Some of the other not so common signs and symptoms is dry skin or hives. Hives is when it's kind of gotten to a point where, okay, we have got to do something about it now. Unexplained dizziness, anxiety, like a sudden development of anxiety, or you've had anxiety in the past and now it's kind of increased tenfold. And then never sick, like never being sick, never getting a cold, never getting a flu, never, sinus infection, nothing. Everybody around you has gotten sick at least once this year, but you never get sick. I know that a lot of people think that's a good thing, but it's actually not. It means that our immune system is overactive. Or going to the other extreme and feeling like you are always sick. It's like you recover from one cold, and now you've got an ear infection, and then the ear infection is gone, and now you've got a sinus infection, and then and it just kind of goes on and on and on. So it's kind of two extremes or two ends of the immune spectrum. So always sick or never sick. So those are some common symptoms of adrenal fatigue. Okay. So some interventions that you can do. So this is a fairly common condition. So HPA axis dysregulation. It is a fairly common condition. Like I said, I see it in about 50% of my clients. And we work through the process of trying to get them well again. Food first. I'm always a food first girl. So having a nice whole foods, minimal processed diet will do wonders for helping the body to recover from adrenal fatigue. People that have adrenal fatigue will hit the stimulants hard, meaning they are like a 3 to 5 cup of coffee a day gal, or they are sugar. I need sugar to get going. I need sugar in my coffee, or I need like these, sugar shots of caffeine, 5-hour energy type things. Just hitting the stimulants hard. I need sugar at 3 in the afternoon when I feel the crash. I have sugar cravings. So feeling like you're hitting the stimulants hard, pulling back on those, I know that's so tough, but pulling back on those a little bit is going to help the body to recover. If you are hitting the sugar hard, I would cut it cold turkey. Reducing it is difficult over time. You cut it cold turkey, 4 to 5 days later, you feel like a champ. The 4 to 5 days will suck, but after you kind of get through the withdrawal period, you're going to feel a lot better. Coffee, I'm kind of iffy on. I think it's person dependent. If you can drink coffee and go to bed 2 hours later, I'm going to say that you're probably not needing to cut back on the coffee as much as somebody that absolutely cannot have coffee past 10 a.m. in the morning. Otherwise, they won't be able to go to bed at 10 p.m. at night, because some people are fast burners and some people are slow burners. So if you are a slow burner, I would probably cut back on the coffee a little bit. So it's just person dependent. Healthy fats in the diet, nice quality protein, whether that's from lean meats or legumes, nuts, seeds, tofu, tempeh, those sorts of things. Whole grains. So really a nice, rounded, healthy, minimally processed diet is going to help get you back to where you should be. In one of my other blogs, I talked about pregnenolone. And so this was the hormone blog, and I have linked it in the other blog, but we talked about, kind of pregnenolone is at the top. And if you have high stress, you can have something called pregnenolone steal. So what I find often is super helpful. Do it quick. It's like ripping a Band-Aid. So what I find super helpful as a kind of first go-to supplement for people with adrenal fatigue is a DHEA supplement. I like to go kind of higher on the end, like 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams for the first week or two, and then start cutting it back until we find your threshold amount. This helps with the muscle fatigue, muscle recovery. This will help with a lot of the fatigue first thing in the morning and getting throughout the day, and it'll help get your circadian rhythms kind of balanced again. So that's one of my very helpful go-to supplements I like for people with HPA axis dysregulation. Adaptogenic herbs is another one. I have linked a blog in this blog as well that talks all about the different kinds of adaptogenic herbs out there. There's a product that I do like. It's called HPA Adapt by Integrative Therapeutics. And the reason that I like it is it has 4 different adaptogens in it that will help the body adapt to the stress response. So it's not going to take the stress away, but it will help kind of take the edge off in the body. You're not going to feel any different from this supplement. I feel like people will say, well, I don't feel any different. This is one of those that you're not necessarily going to feel anything, but what it's doing is it's help resetting the balance in the body, getting the adrenals working how they're supposed to work, kind of resetting the system on the inside. So you won't necessarily feel anything from it, but they are super helpful. Meditation. is another great intervention. Like I said earlier, you can't always take the stress out of your life, but what you can do is employ techniques to kind of help combat the stress. Meditation, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before you go to bed, taking a walk before you come home to just kind of release the day from you before you come into the house, so that you're not, brooding about it and talking about it with, your spouse or your significant other, or bringing the anger home into the house, kind of letting go of it before you come into the house. Belly breathing, and I've linked a video in the blog as well on how to do belly breathing. You can do that anywhere. You can do it at your desk. You can do it in your car. But meditation is, don't knock it until you've tried it. You don't have to sit there like this for, 5 or 10 minutes. It's really whatever quiet time looks for you. So it could be reading for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, doing it again before bed, something that you enjoy. It could be going for a walk. It could actually be, meditation. It's just really anything that gets you to stop thinking about everything that has to get done, everything you need to do, everything that went on, and just refocus on relaxing, getting you a nice breathing pattern. So meditation can be a lot of different things. And then, like I said in the blog, the interventions really go on and on. It's just a person dependent. One thing might work for one person that doesn't work for the other. But as long as we can get them to where they're not feeling so tired all the time, they can start to function a little bit better. And I do find that those interventions that I listed are probably the biggest ones that I like to start with, because that gets the fatigue to start to go away so that they start feeling like a human again. And so that's it for adrenal fatigue, or HPA axis dysregulation. And so I don't see any comment or questions for tonight. But like I said, if you haven't read the blog yet, definitely take a moment to read the blog, because you might find some information in there, or you might find information in some of the linked blogs that are applicable to you or what you're currently experiencing. If you're watching this after the fact, you can go ahead and post your questions. I do monitor them, and I will be more than happy to come back and answer them for you. And so that's it for tonight, short and sweet. Next week, we are talking MTHFR, or the methylenyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. Some people call it the Monday, Thursday, Friday gene. It's basically a genetic mutation that we're going to kind of dive into next week. And so I will see you guys then. Have a good week. See you later. Bye.